Before we begin, viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. What you're about to hear is taken directly from federal courtroom testimony on Day 5 of the Sean Diddy Combs trial, as reported by Inner City Press. For the first time, Cassie Ventura shared in chilling detail what she claims to have witnessed beneath Diddy's Los Angeles mansion. Hidden tunnels, masked women, and secret rooms filled with fear and confusion. This wasn't about music. It wasn't about celebrity. And it wasn't even about their famously volatile relationship. This, according to Cassie, was something much darker. Some parts of her account have been censored to comply with YouTube's community guidelines, but the core of her testimony remains untouched. What she revealed during cross-examination stunned the courtroom and could hold the key to unraveling one of the most disturbing celebrity trials in recent history. What lies beneath the surface of Diddy's empire may finally be exposed. Day 5 began with a palpable tension in the air. Reporters arrived earlier than usual. The public gallery was packed. Even the jury appeared unusually focused, as if everyone sensed what was coming. All eyes were on the double doors as Cassie Ventura returned to the stand. Unlike previous days filled with emotional but procedural questioning, today promised something different. Cassie entered quietly, flanked by security, and took her seat across from the defense. She looked tired but composed. The judge sternly reminded everyone that courtroom decorum would be strictly enforced. Then the questioning began. Rather than rehashing the dynamics of their relationship, the defense took an unexpected turn, asking Cassie about the layout of Diddy's Los Angeles property. At first, the question seemed oddly architectural: design, floor plans, security gates. But then came the question that shifted the entire tone. "Ms. Ventura," the defense attorney asked, "have you ever been beneath the property, inside the tunnel?" There was a brief pause. A few gasps broke the silence. The prosecution immediately objected, calling the question irrelevant and speculative, but the judge overruled them. Cassie exhaled slowly and answered, "Yes." That single word changed everything. For months, rumors of underground tunnels had floated around social media. Reddit threads, anonymous tips, even late-night jokes. But now, for the first time, someone had said it under oath. "And what exactly did you see when you went down there?" the defense pressed. Cassie hesitated. "I didn't want to go," she said. "He told me to follow him. He said he had something to show me. He was high. I was confused, but I followed." She explained that the entrance wasn't inside the house, but cleverly hidden behind thick greenery near the pool. It appeared to be just a slope, landscaping, but beneath the leaves was a metal hatch. What she saw beyond it, she said, would haunt her forever. There were concrete steps, a steel door. The deeper we went, the colder it got. And when we entered, she said, I knew this wasn't a safe room. It was something else entirely. She paused, reluctant to say more without being asked directly. The courtroom leaned in. Cassie's voice was steady, eerily so. That was what made it even more disturbing. She didn't cry. She didn't stumble. She spoke with the precision of someone who had replayed these memories for years in silence. The entrance led to a long hallway. The walls were bare, the lighting bright, sterile, fluorescent tubes that buzzed. Everyone in the courtroom understood. Something sinister had been hiding in plain sight. There was a buzzing noise, low and mechanical, humming through the air like background static. Cassie Ventura told the courtroom it didn't feel like part of a home. It felt like an institution, she said. As she walked behind Diddy, the hallways twisted in strange directions. There were no windows, no signal on her phone, no way to call for help. She said Diddy moved ahead of her, mumbling to himself. He kept repeating that he had to prove a point. I thought about turning back, Cassie admitted. But I didn't. He had that look in his eye, the one that meant, don't argue. Eventually, they reached a secure door. Diddy punched in a code on the keypad. The door unlocked with a mechanical click. Beyond it was a chamber, a large, cold room bathed in red light. There were cameras mounted in the corners, leather furniture, and a strange smell in the air. A mix of chemicals, sweat, and something else she couldn't place. This wasn't a lounge. This wasn't a safe room. It felt clinical, she said, but also perverse. Like something awful had happened there. She began listing details. Shelves filled with masks, ropes, latex outfits, oils, and other items she didn't recognize. A rack of unused clothing stood in the corner. Mirrors lined the ceiling and the floor. The walls were padded, soundproofed. None of it felt like fantasy, she testified. It felt like control. Like it was designed for someone to have power over someone else. The defense pressed her. Did you ever see anyone else down there? Cassie hesitated, then nodded. Yes. She recalled seeing 2 women in wigs and masks. One was lying still on a couch. The other sat near a tripod with a camera mounted on it. They didn't move much. They didn't speak. He called them performers. I was never introduced. When asked how long she stayed, she replied, "Not long." I made an excuse. Told him I felt sick. Back upstairs, she locked herself in the bedroom. Hours later, Diddy confronted her. "You never saw anything," he told her. "You don't repeat anything. That place is for me, not for you." It was the first and only time she entered that tunnel. But she never forgot. When asked to describe more, she spoke of 3 additional rooms connected to that underground chamber. One had no lights at all, just a metal bench in the middle and chains on the wall. Another had a full-length mirror beside a bed, and a digital panel I didn't understand. The third, nothing but a chair and a box of wires. That was when she said she wanted to leave. Diddy didn't argue. He laughed, told me I wasn't ready, said it was too real for me. But it wasn't just the rooms. It was what he whispered next. Words that chilled her more than anything she saw. "This is where I bring the ones I own," he told her before opening the final door. Behind one of those doors, she said she heard muffled sounds. At first, she thought it was music, but it wasn't. It was voices. Distorted. I don't know who was inside. I didn't want to know. She left that tunnel shaking. Her clothes held the smell for hours. She admitted to the court that she told no one. Not friends. Not family. "Because I didn't want to disappear," she said. That's how it felt. Like if I said something, I'd vanish. Like those girls in the room. When asked why she was speaking out now, her answer was simple. Because it's not just about me anymore. Because he's still doing this. And if someone else ends up down there and never comes back. Her voice trailed off. The judge called for a brief recess. But no one in the courtroom moved. Because what Cassie had just shared was more than testimony. It was a warning. When court resumed, the questioning shifted from what was beneath the mansion to what happened above it. The defense tried to reframe the disturbing allegations as consensual role play, pointing to Cassie's text where the word freak-off had been used casually. But now, the courtroom was about to find out what that word really meant. "Can you explain what a freak-off was?" the defense asked. Cassie nodded slowly, and the truth was about to get even darker. It was never spontaneous. These nights were always planned, always intentional, and always involved sex. According to Cassie Ventura's testimony, they followed a strict format, sometimes involving multiple people, sometimes filmed, always orchestrated. Diddy would assign roles, give instructions. There were expectations, costumes, and often mandatory drug use. The jury was shown text messages dating back years. In one message, Diddy wrote, "Game starts at 10 p.m. No breaking character until 8 a.m. Another read, "Bring candles. Grab outfits. I want you in a wig." Cassie clarified these weren't isolated incidents. They happened regularly. At least twice a month, she testified. Sometimes spontaneous, but most were scheduled, like meetings, timed, coordinated by his assistants. She admitted that, on some occasions, she said yes. But agreeing while drugged is not consent. I was often high. Sometimes, I didn't even remember what I'd done. The prosecution then clarified that these encounters, referred to in Diddy's messages as sessions, occurred in multiple locations. Luxury hotels, private homes, and yes, even in the tunnel. Did any of these happen in the underground tunnel? The prosecutor asked. Cassie paused, swallowed hard, and said, yes. She described one session where she was ordered to wear a latex suit and remain silent the entire night. I was told I'd be punished if I broke character, she said. There were guests. Strangers. I wasn't told their names. I was just told to trust him. One message entered into evidence included a disturbing line from Diddy. This time I want control. No safe word. Cassie said she eventually stopped feeling like she owned her own body. Afterward, I felt hollow. I didn't know who I was anymore. She deleted videos and photos. Not out of shame, but out of fear. I thought if I ever said anything, something worse would happen. The prosecution turned to the role of drugs in these events. What substances were commonly used? They asked. Cassie didn't hesitate. Opiates, MDMA, benzos, weed, but mostly pills I didn't ask for. Sometimes I didn't even know what I took until I blacked out. She said Diddy, or members of his team, often handed her the pills directly. He'd say it would help me relax, but it made me foggy, slow, obedient. She recalled one night in vivid detail, waking up on the floor of Diddy's Miami property, drenched in sweat, with a camera light still on. I don't know how I got there. I don't know who was in the room. Eventually, Cassie began to suspect that the sessions were being recorded. He'd tell me, "You're mine forever now." At first, I thought it was a twisted way of saying he loved me. But then I realized he was documenting it all. For control, the defense challenged this claim, asking if she had ever actually seen one of the videos. Only once. I saw a clip on his laptop. Me. 2 men. I didn't remember it happening. She said she begged him to delete it. His reply? I keep everything. For leverage. According to Cassie, that control extended beyond the bedroom. If I left the house without checking in, he'd call 50 times. If I didn't answer, he'd threaten to ruin everything. She suspected he even told people in his circle not to give her drugs, accusing her of stealing from him. It was like he was cutting me off from the world. I was entirely dependent on him. At one point, she tried to get help, checking into a luxury rehab disguised as a spa. But Diddy found out. He showed up, told them I was just being dramatic. I checked out the next day. The courtroom sat in stunned silence, as she admitted she'd tried many times to quit pills. But I couldn't, not with him still in my life. As her testimony continued into the afternoon, the prosecutor asked, "Were you the only one?" Cassie shook her head. No, not by a long shot. She testified that other women were often involved in these freak-offs. Some were escorts, others were women she didn't know. And sometimes, she added quietly, they were celebrities. They arrived by car service, some wearing masks, some already in tears. Cassie didn't ask questions. I was too scared, she told the court. Among the few people who truly understood what went on behind closed doors was a former friend, Tiffany Red. Cassie identified her as one of the only people who ever tried to speak up. Tiffany was at my 29th birthday party, she said. She saw things. She told me it wasn't okay. I didn't listen. The courtroom was reminded of an open letter Tiffany later published in Rolling Stone, where she called out Diddy's behavior. According to the prosecution, she tried to speak, but like many others, she was silenced. The prosecution continued pressing. Did any staff members witness what was going on? Cassie nodded. Yes. His assistants helped coordinate everything. They knew when women were arriving. They cleaned up afterward. I don't know how much they understood, but they weren't blind. She recalled one incident that shattered her sense of privacy for good. I caught one of his assistants walking in on us. He didn't flinch, just said, "Sorry, boss," and walked out. The defense argued that these anecdotes didn't prove criminal intent, but Cassie's response cut through the legal jargon. It wasn't about sex. It was about obedience, submission. He needed to feel untouchable. When asked why so many stayed silent for so long, her response was immediate. Because we thought no one would believe us. Because he's Diddy. She paused, then added, "But now the truth is out, and I'm not the only one ready to speak." The courtroom braced itself for what came next. The most harrowing portion of her testimony. The physical abuse. Cassie had already spoken of manipulation, the underground tunnels, and disturbing sexual encounters. But now it wasn't symbolic. It was bruises, blood, and real pain. "Did Mr. Combs ever physically assault you?" the prosecutor asked. Cassie looked down, her voice steady. "Yes, many times." She described the early signs, grabbing her wrist too tightly, shoving her during arguments. He always apologized afterward, said it would never happen again, but always did. The court was shown photographs, a gash above her eyebrow. "He thought I was cheating," she said quietly. "I had gone to dinner alone. That was it." She described how he came home inebriated and paranoid. She had planned to pack for a trip, but was exhausted and fell asleep on the couch. "I woke up to him screaming. I don't remember much after that, just the pain." In another incident, she said he kicked her in the back after reading a text on her phone. "Do you remember who it was from?" the prosecutor asked. "Kid Cudi," she replied. Cassie admitted they had briefly dated during a break in her relationship with Diddy, but he never let it go. He brought it up constantly, used it to justify everything. Even when she tried to leave, he found new ways to punish her. He sent messages through people I trusted, made sure I felt watched, made sure I remembered who was in control. When asked why she never reported it to the police, she was blunt. "Because no one would believe me. He had the power. I didn't." Then she revealed something that made the entire courtroom go still. After one of the worst nights, he threw me off a boat in the Caribbean, told me I was dead weight. She swam to shore, and still, I went back to him. A juror was visibly shaken. The judge called for a recess, but the damage had been done. Cassie had made it clear. This wasn't emotional abuse hidden behind luxury. This was physical, violent, real. When the court reconvened, the prosecution carefully transitioned into the final and most infamous event, the Intercontinental Hotel incident. This wasn't gossip, the prosecutor said. This wasn't a rumor. This was the night that changed everything. "This happened before your movie premiere, correct?" "Yes," Cassie replied. "I had waited years for that premiere. I was proud of that film. I wanted to celebrate. But Diddy had other plans. He said we needed to reconnect. He told me one more freak-off would fix things. That would be quick." She was hesitant. At first, she said no, but he wouldn't let it go. "He told me it was tradition," Cassie said, "that every big moment needed one of our nights." Eventually, she relented, not because she wanted to, but because she was tired. "I wanted peace. I didn't want to fight the night before my red carpet event." She was driven to the Intercontinental Hotel, believing it would just be the two of them. But when she arrived, the truth was waiting. There were already others in the room. 2 women, a male dancer, candles, cameras. She knew immediately what it was. He handed her a pill. He said it would help me loosen up. I was already exhausted, but I took it. What followed was a haze of fractured memories. She remembered flashes, a dancer in a mask, Diddy recording on his phone, her reflection in the mirror, slurring words she didn't recall saying. And then, nothing. I woke up hours later, alone, covered in sweat. She checked her phone. There was a message from him. "You were amazing. I'm proud." But she didn't know what he meant. She didn't ask. She got up, cleaned herself, and hours later, she walked the red carpet, smiling. No one knew. No one saw the bruises under the dress. The prosecution then introduced a series of text messages from that same day. Diddy had written, "Are you still glowing? Want to do it again after the after party?" Her response? "I never replied." That night, something shifted inside her. For the first time, she began to imagine life without him. It wasn't just one night. It was the final straw in a decade of control. The next morning, she boarded a flight to New York alone. Diddy didn't follow. For the first time in years, I could breathe. The final portion of Cassie's day, 5 testimony, was quieter than the rest, less shocking than the tunnels, less violent than the bruises. But in many ways, it was more haunting because it showed what happens after the cameras stop flashing. She described trying to heal. "At first, I pretended none of it happened. I told people we just grew apart. But inside, I was broken." She began therapy, and slowly, the memories began to return. Nights I had buried, faces I tried to forget, rooms I had blocked out. Then came the civil lawsuit, filed swiftly, settled even faster. But for Cassie, it wasn't about the money. It was about the record, a document that said, "I wasn't crazy. It happened." That lawsuit opened the floodgates. In the weeks that followed, other women came forward. Anonymous accounts, new complaints, and then an FBI raid. Authorities stormed multiple Diddy-owned properties, searching for evidence tied to trafficking and coercion. What they found remains sealed by the court. But the rumors spread fast. Underground structures, files, even hidden recording devices. Reporters flooded her with interview requests. She declined. "I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted to be free." But now, here she was in federal court, under oath, recounting it all. When asked what she hoped would come from her testimony, her answer was immediate. Accountability. Not just for me, but for everyone who went through that house. For everyone who disappeared into those tunnels and never came out. And with that, her testimony concluded. The judge dismissed the jury for the day. The courtroom remained still. There were no cameras inside, but the world outside already knew. Something monumental had just happened. Cassie Ventura didn't just testify. She exposed a hidden world, one built on power, money, and silence. And no matter what comes next, the truth is out.